Hello and welcome to PopSoc, an initiative by ShastrArt. Let's start. So, this is the second video in a series of 3 videos on Karachi social life. This is Karachi social life part 2. In part 1, we discussed how after partition and migration, Karachi developed into or emerged into a post-colonial metropolis with a lot of which was highly overpopulated with a multi-ethnic population, and which led to the advent of violent entrepreneurs who provided people with water, electricity, and space which the state was incapable of providing, and the city survived in a state of ordered disorder where these violent entrepreneurs operated as sort of de facto sovereigns, and power was and the mandate was mostly in their hands, and the state mostly facilitated their activities. So in this video, this is the second video, and we are going to discuss student politics in Karachi University, because there is the macro history of student politics, because there is a direct thread between campus wars in Karachi University, the culture of wars in Karachi University, and the fabulous gang wars and I guess violence that we have seen in the movie Dhurandhar as representative of what happened in the city of Karachi in say from the period of in the 2000s. So there's a direct thread, and it will be interesting to see how student politics in Karachi created the ground for Karachi becoming one of the most violent big cities in the world and the hub of massive gang wars. So let's see. Karachi University was formed in 1951. It is one of the biggest public universities in Pakistan. And between 1951 and up till say 1971-72, the primary opposition in student politics in Karachi University was between the ultra-right, the Islamist students who were affiliated with IJT, which is the student wing of the Jamaat-e-Islami in Pakistan. And on the left was the NSF, it's the National Students Federation, which was primarily led by left-leaning and communist activists. Now, Communist Party was banned in 1953 or 54, but nevertheless, communists remained underground and they remained active without their party, and they mastered the art of infiltrating whichever student organization came up. So the NSF came after the Communist Party was banned, so they infiltrated the NSF, and NSF eventually got recognized as basically a left-leaning student federation. And the NSF was very relevant in Pakistan, remained very relevant in Pakistan politics. Politicians who were not in power saw NSF as an opportunity to win support, whereas those who were in power saw it as a threat, and they had good reason to do so. Why? Because NSF was actually leading from the front in the student uprising against, I think, General Ayub Khan in 1968. So Ayub Khan was in power from like 1957-58 to 1968. He was a dictator and martial law, and he was general. And after 1965, when Pakistan lost the war to India, there was a lot of resentment against him, and left-leaning NSF activists were in the forefront of the student uprising. And while the student uprising was going on, the left activists showed a lot of support to Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who they thought was also a socialist. He projected himself as a socialist to gain the support of the NSF and left activists, and then personally monitored the uprising against Ayub Khan. And then I think after Ayub Khan, Yahya Khan came to power, and he then organized the first general elections in Pakistan in 1970. And after like a year and a half or 2 years of instability, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto eventually became the Prime Minister of Pakistan, and with the image of being a socialist. And because he had the image of being a socialist, there was a lot of anxiety among Jamaat-e-Islami, the army, and other conservative elements in society that they will be suppressed and so on and so forth. So from 1971 onwards, and probably a little before that, the Jamaat-e-Islami and its student wing, the IJT, they came up with a separate squad of students, and it's generous to call them students. They were basically militants, and they were called the Thunder Squad. So the Thunder Squad was the first one to bring revolvers, 10 guns, Kalashnikovs, bombs. They were the first ones to start using these weapons in student politics, in student wars, and they entered Karachi in and around 1972. And the purpose was to ensure that to suppress the left, basically, right? To suppress NSF, to some extent also PSF, which is the student wing of the PPP, the party of the Bhuttos. And but that didn't actually work. It worked in the short term because suddenly everybody is like, oh, these IJT militias are using guns, and before that it was not the case. Like from up till the 1970, 1971, yes, the students were divided between Islamist and progressive students. And in fact, there was another interesting anecdote that the progressive students mostly came from arts and humanities background, and that is where their support base was. And the IJT's primary support base was science and engineering students. And it's an interesting thought, and I'll probably do a video on it sometime, that why is it that engineering and management students are so attracted to religious fundamentalism and fascism and fascist ideologies, but that's a debate for later. So there is a Karachi University, and a few meters adjacent there is the NED Engineering University. So Karachi University would become the hub of progressive students, and NED University would become the hub of Jamaat-e-Islami and conservative right-wing Islamist students. That does not mean that IJT did not have a presence in Karachi University. For instance, they stored all kinds of weapons in a mosque which existed in Karachi University, and up till the 70s, most of the fights were like fist fights or egg shelling, or in extreme cases, like they will use wooden weapons, right? So left students, because they had fewer resources, they would often barge into classrooms, break the furniture to make and craft all kinds of wooden weapons. And if someone took a knife out, it was considered a big deal, right? And while Islamist and progressive students would fight against each other in elections or in fist fights, there was also a sort of mutual respect. If not respect, then definitely a kind of benevolence. Ki, yeah, okay, we may be in different and opposed parties, but we are essentially students. And and in some cases left students would go on to join Islamist students, and Islamist students would go on to join left students. And there was also, like, the boundaries were porous, and it was a, I guess, relatively healthier atmosphere. But in 1972, with the advent of the Thunder Squad, things changed drastically, because firstly, women students could no longer participate in politics because it got so violent, right? So they were pushed out. Earlier, they would not fist fight, but they would engage in sloganeering and banner making and all kinds of protests and demonstrations. But suddenly, women were moved out. So politics really became like a masculine war zone, right? So so this was a major change around the 70s. And this change led to several other changes, which I will lay it out for you now. After 1972, 71, 72, when the Thunder Squad of the IJT, Jamaat-e-Islami student wing, became really, really active in Karachi University, for a while left students had to stay low because they could no longer match up with the IJT, who were carrying revolvers and Kalashnikovs. They could no longer match them up with like sticks and throwing eggs and fist fights. But over time, as is the case in Karachi, and I told you in the previous video how with the advent of the Afghan Jihad, for instance, guns became really cheap and everybody got a lot of access to guns. A lot of guns flew into Karachi. So over time, other student organizations also started getting guns, and one of the first student organizations to get guns in opposition to the IJT, to the Thunder Squad, was the PSF. PSF is the student wing of the PPP, which is the party of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, which was at the time in power. And so there is a fascinating anecdote given by one of the PSF activists called Akram Kaim Khani. And Akram Kaim Khani will become important later on due to a fascinating incident in Karachi University. And he's telling Lauren Gayer, and you can see it on your screen, and he's describing how they got hands, because nobody is selling them guns, right? The IJT Thunder Squad is getting guns with the help of Jamaat-e-Islami and the army, because the army and Jamaat-e-Islami are both conservative and they don't like Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and the left, so they want to suppress them. So let's see what Akram Kaim Khani has to say. I was going on a motorbike with a friend of mine in my area, and suddenly we saw a university students' union van. At the time, the union was run by the Jamaat-e-Islami. So sometimes Jamaat-e-Islami would win, sometimes the left would win. It was a flip-flop in those days. So at this time, Jamaat-e-Islami is in power, even though in the government, like the state is run by Bhutto. It was very surprising because the Jamaatis never dared to enter our area. Then I saw one badmash called Saeed in the van. So I told my friend maybe they are planning to do something to us, to attack us. There must be something wrong, we must follow them. So we followed them in the colony, and they parked the van in front of a house, and Saeed and other badmash came out of the car, and they had 2 large boris that looked very heavy. Then they dumped these 2 bags in that house. I decided that we should check on them in the morning. I gathered all our friends, maybe 20-30 of them, in my house, and in the early morning we surrounded the house. At 8 o'clock, Said came back with the van, and they started uploading the bags in wherever the flat is. When they were about to upload the second one, Tipu, and Tipu will become very important also. Tipu, who is the most well-known PSF militant, came, and he had no patience in him. He had told everyone, let them complete their. I had told everyone, let them complete their job, and then we'll do something. But after they finished the first batch, Tipu shouted, "Oi Saeed!" He was carrying a gun, and we only had 1 gun and maybe 20 bullets. And he started firing at Saeed. Saeed ran away, and the other man ran away, and we captured all those bags. They were full of pistols, 10 guns, knives, hundreds of them. That is the day we became rich in Karachi, when we realized that we should conquer all of Karachi. Jamaat vanished from Karachi University for a month. Not a single one of them went outside because they knew that we had guns now. It was the first time that we saw so many guns, right? So when Jamaat got access to guns, suddenly the left and the NSF and the PSF went silent for a while because they didn't know what to do. And when the Jamaat realized that now others have gotten access to guns, then the Jamaat went into hiding for a while because they're like, oh no, shit is getting real, and now if we go there with guns, we will be they will respond with guns. So that became like a deterrent, and this continued for a few years, and until 1978, when I think the first time the guns were shot in campus, when I think the left parties won, the NSF won, and when the student union was being sworn in, the IJT militants shot a Sten gun. Some people got injured, but nobody died. And in this while, the left students, the NSF students, also got access to guns because they procured them. Some of them bought them from PSF itself, and some procured them from Baloch criminals and Baloch entrepreneurs through the connections of the BSO or the BSF. BSO is the Baloch Students Organization. So the Baloch Student Organization helped the left student activists get access to guns, so that there is again a level playing field. And then in 1978, first time guns are shot, although nobody dies. And in 1977, Zulfikar Ali is overthrown, and Ziaul Haq comes to power and declares martial law. And again, Ziaul Haq is in coalition with Jamaat-e-Islami, and he's very conservative, and he's obviously pro-army, and like it's an army government, so to say, an army dictatorship. and so there is a lot of resentment among left activists because Zia-ul Haq is in power. And around this time, Tipu became very active, right? So what happened was Tipu came from a family that came to Pakistan during partition, and he traced his roots to UP, Uttar Pradesh in India. And Tipu wanted to join the army, but he had a criminal record, so he was kind of thrown out from there. And then he came to Karachi University, and he first he flirted with Jamaat-e-Islami, but then joined the left, and from the left then he went to the PSF. So there is no real ideological commitment. It's just who gives me a chance to like use more guns or whatever. So when Zia-ul Haq came to power, Tipu was in PSF, so he went underground. And in 1980 he went to Kabul, because in Kabul Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's sons had started Al-Zulfikar, which is like a terrorist organization trying to manufacture an armed struggle against Zia-ul Haq's regime. And he won their confidence. Tipu won their confidence, and Tipu then was given the task of hijacking a flight which was supposed to take off from Karachi and via Kabul go to Damascus. It was flight number 326. So Tipu came to Karachi and was hiding, like, I'll go and hijack the flight. And then in February 1981, while Tipu was in Karachi, although most people didn't know that he was there, probably Khani knew because Akram Qaim Khani was his friend. So there's a lot of resentment against the military and Zia-ul Haq. And in Karachi University, an army jeep or an army truck, I think, came in Karachi University campus because some army official wanted their daughter or son to get admission, and it was parked outside the admin block. And the NSF and left activists saw that, they were like, how can we allow this to happen, an army vehicle in our university? So they took some petrol, filled it in a Coca-Cola bottle, and they went ahead trying to put it on fire, to light it on fire as a sign of protest against Zia-ul Haq and the military. And in this case, the Thunder Squad interrupted, and they beat up a lot of left activists, including Akram Qaim Khani. He was beaten up, and then later on he was detained and sent to jail, and in army jail or something. He was detained by the army. And Tipu was in Karachi, and Tipu heard this, and he was like really pissed off, and Tipu was like, I am going to take revenge. So, and Tipu went to Karachi University. So his primary job is to hijack a flight, but he's like, let's take a detour and go to Karachi University. And he went there looking for Thunder Squad members, and then he shot Sten guns at them and threw 2 grenades. And so a lot of people got injured, and one IJT activist or militant is the correct word, one IJT militant died. So when an IJT militant died, obviously the situation escalated, and a lot of Marxist and left and PSF activists were arrested. And Khani was like, Akram Khan Khani was in detention. He was tortured quite brutally. But then cool as a cucumber, Tipu went on to hijack that flight, and in one of the demands he made to ensure the safety of the passenger, he demanded that all the PSF, Marxist, Khani, everybody gets released, and they were released. So sort of he created a lot of ruckus, which led to his friends getting arrested, and then he hijacked the flight and ensured that release, after which I guess they must have gone into they went underground. So this is one of the earlier instances of violence and sort of Karachi student politics getting entwined with like international crime conspiracies like a hijack. So with the advent of Tipu and other sort of hyper-violent student activists in Karachi politics, and Tipu is a famous example, but every party and every student organization had examples of this nature. and student activists genuinely became transformed into student militias. And one would think that, oh, this would convert the university into having a very fearful atmosphere. But no, people were, I guess, reasonably cool about it. And not only that, but instead of being fearful of Tipu to some extent, they were actually mesmerized and in awe of activists or militias like Tipu, right? So this change in culture, where what politics is, what is the purpose of politics, what kind of people do we want in politics, what kind of leaders do we want in politics, changed drastically once everybody had guns, right? So this change in culture, the cognitive nature in which people thought about politics, has been discussed by Lauren Gare, and you'll see it on your screens. Militants inspired fear but also awe, and their impulsivity was not always considered a liability, but was also seen as a political virtue infusing the group with energy. Right? Under Bhutto's leadership, the PPP had been encouraging the recruitment of party workers from lower middle class, known for their enthusiasm and loyalty to the Bhutto family. Those hot-head party workers were known as Jialas and were seen by the party leadership as one of its major assets. Thus, the unpredictable and impulsive behavior of militants such as Tipu was as much praised by the comrades as it was feared. This is important, this thing that now we want and we genuinely desire people like Tipu and others to genuinely represent us and fight for us is very important, because even in the movie Dhurandhar, we see this where Ranveer Singh's character is a lot like Tipu. Like, he seeks out violence, right? That is the persona that Ranveer Singh or Hamza Ali Mazari as an infiltrator, as someone who infiltrates the gang, develops. Because his purpose is not just to infiltrate the gang, his purpose is to rule the gang, to sort of lead the gang, to become the apex predator, so to say. So he has to exhibit personality-wise certain qualities that people look at with respect, that people look at with awe, that people look at, that generates a lot of charisma in this society in Karachi. So Ranveer Singh's character is like that. Like when Rahman Dakat wants to avenge his son, every other member of his gang is like, nah, this is not the best time to maybe launch an attack. But Ranveer Singh is like, yes, this is the best time. We must attack now, right? Similarly, when he's interrogating the cook after cook in Rahman Dakat's house, Uzair Baloch, whose brother is kidnapped, Uzair Baloch is like Hamza, relax, what are you doing? Whereas Hamza is busy chopping his fingers off. And then later on, Hamza is ready to burn down 40 LTF police officers to get Rahman Dakat released. These kind of highly theatrical, hyper-violent and sort of maverick acts are done, and this persona is aimed at two purposes. Firstly, it increases his respect and trust in the face of Rahman Dakat and Uzair. They start to really trust him, and they think he's very capable because he's violent, and so they give him a lot of responsibilities. But at the same time, he's able to show every other member of the gang that he has the qualities necessary to become a leader of the gang, just in case if Rahman Dakat and Uzair Baloch are not available, which happens to be the case in the second movie. So in that sense, this is very this passage by Lauren Gare is very instructive, because this is exactly like the character of Tipu and Raja Javed of the Thunder Squad. This is how the character of Hamza Ali Mazari is constructed in Dhurandhar. So I think this is very interesting, and if you want more insights into these kind of personalities and how prominent they become in gang wars, you can read Randall Collins' book on violence, and you'll see the cover page, right? So yeah, this is interesting. The culture of politics in Karachi University totally transformed, and Tipu obviously is one of the first ones to score a kill with a gun in Karachi University. And then in 1984, I think Ziaul Haq banned student organizations because he feared that just like the student uprising against General Ayub, there would be an uprising against him. So he banned it. So for a while, there was a phase where IJT, NSF, PSF came together to protest against Ziaul Haq, like how can you not allow student organizations? But later on, Ziaul Haq and Jamaat-e-Islami, they consoled the IJT and they said that, yeah, we'll allow you to participate in the campus, but everybody else, PSF, left student organizations, will remain banned. And this betrayal led to left activists anticipating that IJT will sooner or later attack them. So they did a preemptive strike and they captured all the hostels dominated by IJT, and they stuffed those hostels with like hundreds of guns, grenades, drugs. And when the Ziaul Haq regime tried to sort of smoke them out of those hostels that they had captured, the police came in and they were like shooting for like 10 hours in Karachi University, and the student activists actually did quite well against the police. And this banning of student organization actually made violence even worse, because now there are no elections, now there are no deterrents against violence. Because earlier, if you were very violent, and so you could be sanctioned and not allowed to run for elections, but now that is no longer there, so there are no deterrents against violence. And so in NED Engineering University, all the Jamaat people were there, and in the Karachi University, all the left and PSM activists were there. And on top of on the roofs of both buildings, which were a few meters apart, there would be snipers, and students would regularly shoot at each other. And I think between 1984 and 1988, like around 60 students died in these shootings, and 91% of all the student deaths that happened in Pakistan at the time happened in Karachi University. So in that sense, the violence escalated quite drastically. And then in 1989, I think Benazir Bhutto came to power, and when Bhutto came to power, she reinstated the NSF, and she reopened students' elections. So the situation was already violent, and now elections were happening, so it became even more violent. So more and more, sort of one reason after another, the violence kept getting escalated, and the culture of gun violence in campus wars in Karachi University got institutionalized, in the sense that the strength of a party organization now depended not on their ability to win elections, but on their ability to amass military strength and their ability to have the latest weaponry and the most skilled people to use that weaponry. And so in this sense, the culture of gun wars in Karachi University got institutionalized. And in this culture of gun wars and institutionalized violence, a new player entered in 1978, which was the APMSO, which is the All Pakistan Mujahid Students Organization. And yeah, they escalated the game even further. So let's see what they did. So we saw in Karachi Social Life Part 1 how Mujahirs, who are basically Urdu-speaking Muslim migrants from India who settled in Karachi, constitute anything around 40 to 50% of the population of Karachi. And after the language riots in which Sindhi and Urdu-speaking people clashed with each other, they started feeling the need to have a separate organization that would cater to their own interests. So in 1978, the APMSO was formed, and they wanted to do Mujahir politics in Karachi University, but this was also the time of hyper militarization of student politics, and so the IJT, which was dominant at the time, they used their guns to ensure that APMSO could not do politics in Karachi, and they were banned from entering Karachi University in around 1981 or 82. And so because they were banned to do politics in Karachi University, the APMSO decided that no, we are not going to do student politics, we are going to do party politics. And so the MQM was formed, and they did like street corner meetings and all kinds of public campaigns to convince a majority of Mujahir that they were the real representatives and not the Jamaat-e-Islami, which was till now the party that got Mujahir votes. So now MQM rose quite swiftly, and in the municipal elections of like 1987 and 89, they won a lot of seats, and then in 1989 they won enough seats to form a coalition with Benazir Bhutto in 1989. So they were directly in power, MQM, right, which is the Mujahir Qawmi movement. And while MQM and PPP, which is Benazir Bhutto's party, were in coalition at the center and the state, but in Karachi University, wars happened between PSF, which is the PPP student wing, and APMSO, which is the MQM student wing. One particular incident, I think, happened in 1989 where a gunfight happened at NED Engineering University, and PSF militants were eventually overpowered by APMSO militants. And then those PSF militants were taken to Karachi University Gymnasium, where they were shot point blank, like they were just murdered. And this sent shockwaves around the city, which was used to, the city was used to student violence, but this was like a different level. And then over time, Benazir Bhutto's party fell, and the sort of government fell, and I think Jab Sadiq Ali came to power, and Sadiq Ali used MQM and its military power to suppress PPP, and in return for military and muscle power, the MQM was given a free hand to do whatever the hell it wanted to do in Karachi. So there were like areas and localities in Karachi where you couldn't enter without MQM permission, and they would actively beat up people who entered, and they would dig trenches and build walls around their areas. Like it's like a citadel, like a state within a state, where the actual state, Pakistani state, couldn't enter. And there's a famous case of an intelligence officer and 2-3 of his subordinates doing a fact-finding mission over there, when they were captured and taken to White House, which is that torture cell, and they were given electric shocks. And then later the army had to come in Karachi, which was, I think, called Operation Cleanup, to sort of teach a lesson to MQM, because it was getting a bit too powerful and a bit too violent. But while it restricted the MQM, in 1994 or 95, the Operation Cleanup ended, and then the MQM sprang back up again. And then later on, from 2002 to 2008, MQM was part of Parvez Musharraf's government, and Musharraf again gave them a free hand, like, as long as you keep killing all my opponents, you can do whatever you want in Karachi. And so in Karachi, if you needed electricity, if you needed water, if you needed jobs in the bureaucracy, if you needed legal counseling, everything you could get only through MQM. There was no other way. The state did nothing. And MQM had its own police. They had their own traffic police, and oftentimes they would assist the local police in managing traffic during peak times, like during Ramzan and others. So it was like he calls it the secondary state, where it's like a state within a state and a parallel government MQM used to run. So MQM had this dual identity, as firstly fearful but also benevolent. Fearful because they would use murders and third-degree tortures and kidnappings to control the population, but benevolent also because they could get people a lot of jobs. They could get people jobs, access to electricity, water, etc. And if you got a job through MQM recommendations, then you were obligated to do certain jobs for MQM. For instance, if you, for instance, got a job in district government in Karachi through MQM recommendations, then you would have to do murders and kidnappings for them. So in a lot of cases, there were clerks there would be people who worked as a clerk for the city during the day, and then they would act as murderers for MQM for the party at night. So this kind of dual existence, and Laurent Gare actually compares this to the Shiv Sena, and he doesn't compare it to the RSS BJP, but that is true of the RSS BJP also, that participation in party organization was the key to getting jobs. And once you got a job through a recommendation of the party organization, your primary purpose was to do whatever the party organization told you to do, right? So this is what he says. And so I guess on other parties like the PPP, which was not in power at the time, in order to come in power, they also needed like militias of this nature, and which is why I think PPP turned towards Rahman Dakat, which was rising. So what happened was Rahman Dakat saw how the MQM operated, and MQM, The thing is that MQM learned its lesson from student politics in Karachi. So because they saw that how student politics in Karachi happened, how the IJT did not let any other organization enter the Karachi University, and they learned that now we are going to do this to the whole city, right? So they took lessons from student politics and applied it to the city as a whole, and then Rahman Dakat and the People's Aman Committee saw, okay, this is how the MQM operates, and so we are also going to do the same, but in Liari, like you can't enter without a permission, and we will be the one who provides all kinds of electricity and water and jobs. And so yeah, it's like a state within a state, and de facto sovereigns, as we talked about in Karachi Social Life Part 1. So this is the culture of Karachi. This is why Karachi is so laden with gang wars, because gangs are the only they are the only source of electricity, water and jobs in a country where the state is mostly a stamp, and the main mandate and the popular mandate is with the violent entrepreneurs, as we discussed in the previous video. And so with this background of the MQM, of the rise of the MQM, inspired by the rise of violent campus wars, we will now move on to what I guess most of you would be waiting for, is the Rahman Dakat and Chaudhry Aslam, and characters that we have seen in the movie Dhurandhar, but this will give a more anthropological, more ethnographic insights into how they operated, why they came to power, and how life was in Liari when they were in power. So thank you, and I hope you will tune in for Karachi Social Life Part 3. Thank you, and see you around.